Hey all, Tony Bing here, hello and welcome back to another New Zealand Void video for Marvel Strike Force. Now, as always, quick disclaimer, the fact I've got access to this information doesn't mean I work for Fox Next or Marvel in any way. So today we have a whopping 7 character kits to look at, because you've got the AIM minions, there's 5 of them, we have Scientist Supreme, and we have Graviton as well, so there's a whole lot to get through. So firstly what I'll do is I'll just run over the kits and I'll give my impressions as we do that, and then at the end I'll give my impressions overall on the rework, which does look to be on the strong side, I'll say that already. But we'll start off with Graviton. He's probably the character I think most people want to see first. We have the passive first here then, so with this, when an enemy drops below 50% health, you increase the duration of their negative effects by 1 up to a maximum of 5. Now that, I'm pretty sure will be nice in the AIM team once we look at all of their kits. But I'm actually liking the sounds of that for a Brotherhood team, because you have Pyro applying the heal block, and then you have Graviton actually adding to that as well. Now, AIM minions specifically, he provides them with 20% damage and 20% max health. You then have some war buffs. Now thankfully they're not limited to defense or offense. I really don't like when they do that, but this is a general war buff. So in war, on turn, you change speed bar of the enemy with the highest speed by 25%, and in war, when an enemy drops below 75% max health, then you apply disrupted. So interesting passive there. Let's have a look at his basic. The basic here is simple enough, but it does have the potential to do a lot of damage on teams that fire off a lot of debuffs. So this one here, you attack primary target for 250% damage, but the important part is the bonus attack for 100% damage per negative effect on the target. So with some of the teams we have in the game now and the amount of debuffs they can actually apply, you could do a whopping amount of damage with this, so really interesting ability. With the special then, this is 3 turns to charge and comes fully charged, so you've got the option of using it turn number 1. Now with this, you attack primary target and adjacent targets for 300% damage. Now you actually see throughout the AIM rework quite a few procs that work on adjacent targets, so that's why I really like the idea of pulling Magneto in there somehow to pull everyone together, and then you could be doing a lot more. So I'm going to definitely look into that once we get some hands-on time. But with this also, you apply +2 slow up to a maximum of 5 to primary target and adjacent targets, and if Scientist Supreme is an ally, you apply bleed to primary target and adjacent targets as well. So once again, if Magneto's there, you're applying all that slow to everyone, +2 slow, and applying the bleeds as well. So yeah, really intrigued by that. The final ability we have here is a 6 turn charge, and this one comes fully charged, so you can use it turn number 1. On the surface it does look a little bit disappointing until we get to the final effects on it. So with this anyway, you attack primary target for 300% damage plus 100% additional damage per negative effect. Very similar to the basic, with the only difference being it does an additional 50% damage on the initial attack. But the important part, and this can make a really big difference because it's turn number 1, is applying the stun as well. Without this it would be pretty useless, to be honest. It would be far too similar to the basic, but a turn 1 stun really can change matches for you, so I like this one as well. Now that is Graviton. Let's have a look at the leader of the AIM minions first, so we'll check out Scientist Supreme. We start off with the passive for Scientist Supreme then. So with this, on spawn you change speed bar by 10% plus 10% per AIM ally, so that'll be up to 50%. You can get on turn 25% chance to revive an ally with 20% max health. If it's an AIM ally, then you revive with 30% of their max health, so imagine the AI will have fun with that. With it being a 1 in 4 chance, that'll probably mean it's a 200% chance when it comes to the AI. Also with this, and this is really powerful, so on turn you grant 1 to 2 ability energy to all AIM allies with a negative effect, and when we look at their kit we'll see for a high majority of their uptime they will actually have negative effects on them, so that's really pretty powerful that. The basic here is pretty simple then, so with this you attack primary target for 240% damage and you apply 2 random negative effects to the primary target, so as mentioned, simple enough. The special then is a lowly 3 turns to charge and comes fully charged, and this is quite interesting because in a way it it conflicts with the passive, so you need to choose, do you want to have your debuffs on your aim characters and get the energy, or do you want to actually flip them, and that's what this does. So with this, you flip 4 negative effects into positive effects for all allies, you apply 2 regeneration to self and aim allies, and you increase duration of positive effects on self and all aim allies by +1 up to a maximum of 3. So again, this is really pretty interesting, this one, and it's going to take a lot of playing around with the aim team until you can figure out at what point you should look to actually flip the buffs and get rid of them, because when you do that from the passive on Scientist Supremes, you won't be generating the energy for them. So yeah, this one's definitely interesting. We finish up for Scientist Supreme with the ultimate then. So with this, you heal all allies for 3500 health. That flat amount's always in there for when you're at lower levels, and 15% of this character's max health. You apply 2 to 3 random negative effects to all non-aim allies and all enemies for 2 turns. I like the fact that it doesn't actually apply to the aim characters, just from a lore perspective if anything, because they're all wearing masks and it makes sense that their leader isn't going to actually damage them, so I do like that there. Now with this as well, you gain 50% extra focus per each aim ally for this attack, so that will stack up to 200% there, just so you can make sure it will actually apply. So definitely an interesting kit for Scientist Supreme. Let's check out the first aim minion now. First minion we look at here then is Aim Assault, and these should be a bit quicker because there's no ultimate here. So for the passive, on turn you change speed bar by 20% for self and adjacent aim allies, and you see that quite a lot when it actually comes to the aim minions, that they can affect adjacent allies. So if Magneto pulls them together, the buffs will be affecting all of them. But also with this, you gain 15% damage and 10% max health as well. With the basic here, you're attacking the primary target for 160% damage, and you're applying bleed as well, and that's for 2 turns there. The final ability, the special here, looks like it could be really pretty powerful as well. So with this, you attack primary target for 250% damage. If this character has a negative effect, you bonus attack the primary target for 125% damage per negative effect on the target. So once again, if they've got a ton of debuffs on them, that could be a huge amount of damage you're doing there. Now with this as well, when you cast it, you gain speed up for a whopping 4 turns. So that's the Aim Assaulter. Let's check out the next aim minion. The next character we have here then is the Aim Infector. So the passive on this one, on turn you gain 2 random negative effects for 2 turns. You gain 10% speed, you gain 15% max health, and on turn, if offense down, then you gain offense up for 2 turns. If you have defense down, then you gain defense up for 2 turns, and if slowed, you gain speed up for 2 turns. Now I'm not sure if the debuff drops off, or it's maybe through Scientist Supreme you would get the debuff to then drop off, because otherwise the way it works, just looking at the passive on its own, it would negate itself in a way. So if you defense down and then gain defense up, you're not any further forward in any way. So I'm sure through the other characters you're probably looking to cleanse or something along the lines of that, so you actually get the bonus from it. But that is the passive, so let's look at the basic. When we look at the basic then, this potentially answers the question I had just a moment ago about the debuffs and the buffs negating themselves. So with this, you attack primary target for 270% damage, and you transfer all negative effects in this character to the primary target, and you apply a random negative effect as well. So it looks like he is going to be adding an absolute ton of debuffs to characters. The final ability here for the Infector is a special, so 3 turns to charge, comes fully charged, you'll change speed bar by 75%, you'll heal self for 10,000 health plus 20% of their max health, you gain 2 counter, and you apply 2 counter to adjacent aim allies. So once again, if Magneto has the audacity to pull the aim characters together, then he's really going to regret it with all the buffs they can actually apply to themselves. But that's Infector. Let's now have a look at Monstrosity. We start off with the passive then, and this is simple enough. So on spawn you gain defense down, and on turn you heal for 20% of max health. The basics are a simple one here, so you attack primary target for 280% damage, and you apply defense down to them as well. The special here then has the potential to the be really strong depending on who you place them next to. So you gain a fence up and apply a fence up to adjacent aim allies for a whopping 3 turns, and you attack primary target for 300% damage, and the attack cannot miss as well. So if you're blinded, you'll still hit, of course. That part of it is not really that important. The single target damage, of course it adds up, but for me it's that a fence up to aim allies for 3 turns, and if they're adjacent. So once again, going to mention Magneto, pulls them together, they're all getting that buff for a fair amount of time, probably till the match is close to actually being over. So that's Monstrosity. Let's check out the next minion. For the final 2 minions here, we don't actually have the in-game tooltip, so what I'm going to do is just run some gameplay in the background that lets you see them in action, and I've just taken down the information from the document we got. So we've got your Protector class aim security. The basic is takedown. With this, you attack primary target for 270% damage. If ability blocked, then you attack primary target for 470% damage instead, which is a huge amount, and you apply slow. So interesting enough, I'm not quite sure who it's there to specifically counter. Yes, we've got quite a few characters that apply ability block, but I'm sure there's someone specifically it's there to really mess with. You've then got the special, which is Charge Capacitor. So with this, it costs 3 energy, and you gain taunt for 1 turn and slow for 2 turns. You heal self and adjacent aim allies for 10,000 health and 10% of max health, and you clear speed up on self as well. So you want your Protector to actually be slow so that they're taunting for longer, so that makes sense. We then have the passive, which is Immunization. With this, when you're attacked, if Scientist Supreme is an ally when above 75% max health, you transfer 1 negative effect from self and each aim ally to the attacking enemy. So that's really nice, and you gain 10% max health and 15% resistance as well there. So that's your Protector class. Let's look at the final minion now. The final minion character we have here then, and we've got some new gameplay as well. So this is Aim Researcher. So the basic is Wound and Shot. You attack primary target for 280% damage and you apply a fence down for 1 turn. We then have the special 3 turns to charge and comes fully charged. It's Surgery Drone. So with this one here, you heal the lowest health ally and adjacent allies for 7,000 health, plus 15% of this character's max health, plus you flip bleed on the lowest health ally and adjacent allies. So if the likes of Pyro applies them, then you're going to be flipping them, and I imagine you'll probably flip them into regen. I think that's the opposite there. The passive is Antidote. So with this one, on turn you choose 1 random ally to apply 1 random positive effect from this list. So it could be Fence Up, Defense Up, Speed Up, Regeneration, Death Proof and Deflect. If the ally is aim, then apply 2 random positive effects from the list, and when a negative effect is applied to an aim ally, which is going to be pretty often, fill this character's speed bar by 20%. So that's really important there, because a lot of your characters will be applying debuffs actually on themselves, and the opposite team will be doing that, and you can fill up the speed bar. So definitely really interesting. I like the fact that through their kit they can actually gain speed, and they can also gain energy if Scientist Supreme is there, but they get debuffs on them, but they're very debuff heavy in regards to what they actually put on the opposite team as well. Graviton, as much as he's set up in some ways to run with aim, I really want to run him as the 5th member in a Brotherhood team. I want to try that out at least and see how I got on with him. But that's all the characters there, a fair amount to cover, so well done if you managed to get to the end of this. It was a lot of information in there. So let me know in the comments below what characters you would look to run as your 5 and where you're looking to use Graviton as well. And thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.